So let's just make sure this is working. Let's check our input. Sounds good. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about getting this extra fringe, right? So we have it here, you don't have it here, and you may have actually cropped it here or here. In which case, as long as you have it in at least one place, you can piece it together. Or you can open up the original JPEG and bring that in and then just mask off parts. But this video is going to deal a little bit with the simpler part of just copying and pasting this. Now, this is not my file because all the layers are not named. So I'm not going to tell you whose file it is, but I know whoever this is definitely going to name these layers. Thank you. So we've got our horizon. We go back to our stamp visible, and this layer, if you remember, has everything that you need on it. Everything below on this one layer without merging. So that's kind of the genius of the merge, stamp visible as opposed to merge visible. So on this layer, I'm going to select the marquee and make a nice selection around that bottom fringe. I want a little chunkier. It's always easy to mask things out than it is to bring information back, so I'd rather have all of it there in the beginning. And then I'm going to hit Command J to jump that to a new layer, and that's layer 4. And I believe what we were calling it was Lil Fringe. Okay, excellent. Now we have it here, and a couple of you guys had it here but hadn't moved it yet. So if we hit V, or for victory, and the Move tool, you select it and drag it up. Now we need to flip it, edit, transform, flip. Nope, wrong flip. I never get the flips right. Edit, transform, vertical? Yes. And then you can take the opacity of the layer down a little bit, zoom in, and then just use the arrow keys to kind of put it in place. Not bad. Then bring the opacity back up. So now it doesn't match perfectly, right? So there's two things that we can do that are pretty easy solutions. One is we need to get rid of this here and kind of smooth out this transition here and here. So I need to add a mask. Mask is down at the bottom, right here. Little Fringe now has a mask, and what I'm going to do is grab the marquee and make an approximation of that. And now with white in the front, and make sure you do not have the layer thumbnail selected, but the layer mask thumbnail selected, you can hit delete and it will clear what's in there. Now, it did not delete it because if you right click and you disable the layer mask, it's right there. The worst thing you can do when you're editing is erase. Because if you change your mind, you can't go back, it's gone. And what we want to do is make sure that it's non-destructive, and as your learning continues, you can continue to edit like more and more bigger and bigger projects, and it's going to be real important that you can go back. So now we've got our horizon, and you might be like, well, it's not perfect yet. Well, all right, I'm going to select this layer mask. I'll grab the brush, B, use the brackets to bring down the size, and with X, putting black in the foreground, just going to kind of solve that. And I, again, do not care about this black. Like this is a wonky picture for a reason, right? And it's not perfect up here, and you can spend some time getting that pretty well done. But that, and if you go too far, you just hit X and then come right back, right? So let's just, like, literally, that's all you have to do. Now, for some of you guys, this is discolored, right? So that's been a thing. Well, depending on your layer order or what layers you had turned on when you did a stamp visible, it may not have the black and white adjustment layer applied to it, in which case it's probably a little stained, like the original. So not a problem. What we can do is, and I'll show you with a contrast layer. You see how this is a little darker? Just a slight bit darker. So right above Lil French, you can first take a black and white adjustment layer and slap it right above it. And it'll fix that, any discoloration, right? For everything down. It doesn't matter if you have several adjustment layers as long as each of them is doing something. But that is a global adjustment that's making everything below it black and white. But if I want to match this and lighten the top fringe up a little bit, because it's a little bit dark, what I'm going to do is go to the adjustments and select levels and make sure that I am right above little fringe. And then, nope, just going. I'm going to drag it to where the fringe looks good. I'm going to do it a little excessively. Now, everything else looks terrible, right? So what we want to do is make sure that levels only affects little fringe. And that's called a clipping mask. You hold down the Option key between the layer that you want to put into the other layer. It's like kind of like an apple in a basket kind of thing. And you clip it in. And now it's just affecting that part. So that's called a clipping mask. Again, Option. So you're taking that levels and you're putting it in the bag that is Lil Fringe. So that's the only thing that it's going to affect. So the difference between this, which is an adjustment layer, right, which is global, affecting everything, and this adjustment layer is that it's a clipping mask and it's dumping into just the layer below. You can identify a clipping mask by the layer that it's acting as like the bag will be underlined, and then you have the little arrow pointing down. So you can do that with a color balance. You can do that with any other adjustment layer. Take it from global to local.